Okay, so I've got a few things to show you here. On the balance beam or higher period value here, looking at some stocks, I'll also show you something on gold here in a minute. This is a real interesting chart here. This is Facebook, and we've driven up to a new structure high. There's a lot of trading commitment. That's what these balance beams are. They're volume spikes essentially. But I was showing you this in the live room at this double top here, and price breaking below this area, attractive to be short because the proximity of balance beams just not quite as intense until we get into this region here, but a nod to a few little guys below. So the trade setup was below 66.74s to be short, looking at 62.39s for T1 and then 58.17 for T2. The reason I want to show this to you is because price really resonated hard at this target here. Look at what happened when we got there. We hit that target and we popped straight up. There's a lot of belief building to seeing a setup and then seeing the traders react to those zones. You've seen it with all the setups that Todd showed you yesterday and today. Lots of resonance at those areas. This is essentially the same sort of phenomenon where we're on a higher period value. We've got strength of signal to create a trade scenario, but the traders really do stuff at these areas. So there's a great example of what I call resonance with the traders. So T1 hit, T2 hit, but what's happened since, and I've actually just flipped this over to the long side, one of my favorite things to look at is the pure horizontal. So if you're a DSR trader, you're living in the horizontal. If you're a balance beam trader, you're living in the horizontal. We're at 61.88s here. So here was the break below to get to target 2. As we passed back up and took over 60, we put in some support swings there. And literally as we crossed about 61, we're starting to break into the floor of this spike right here off to the left. So as the bulls reclaim that zone, chance to be long with stops below structure, and that's already moved in favor pretty well. We're at 61.82s right now. So this is now flipped to the long side. And what I'll do is just show you the basic setup here with the long zone being in the low 61s, stops below the prior swing low there, look left. And then if we look to where we've come from for targets, the top of this balance beam here is really the first goal for price to get up to that zone. Then they've got a bit of an air pocket where there's just not quite as much trading. Emphasize that for you. And we move up to this zone here and this zone here. So pretty easy peas to set that thing up. And there's the trade scenario right there. Now, there could absolutely be something that happens on the way up here that could see you taking profits sooner, maybe even re-entering. But that's the trade scenario going from short, T1, T2, flipping to long. And a real nifty chart there. Showed that to you in the room last week, and a great follow-through. Boeing in the defense industry, this thing had sold off pretty hard. It gapped down, and recently it had a rally up and faded back. And here's what I like. We're fading back. We put in a series of higher lows. These lows here are higher than the one over here. There is some good trading commitment in this area here. You've got the balance beams, use F6 and you get your line across there. But here we have price taking over the ceiling of this balance beam. We have candles going white, your fib candles that you're getting familiar with. Trader trend even goes that extra step of moving from neutral to bullish green. So a chance to be long here in the low 124s, and there's a bit of an air pocket up to this next spike. This zone a lot more dominant. We've got blue and red spikes here. So this is the dominator here, but here's an initial spike right here. So this would be something to respect for T1, and you can see that's exactly where we've gone. We basically just went through this little air pocket here. Just really fascinating on an ongoing basis to see how the traders react through these zones here. They just go right through that air pocket and then straight up to this spike. You can really see that resonating with the traders. They've just stopped on a dime right there. So long from this zone here, at a target zone right now, resting order to book open position profit or aggressively move stops up. If the bulls can keep their footing here, then they've got a little higher to go, about another $1. Then they go into the really heavy overhead resistance, starting at about 128s and going up to about 131 plus tax. Now if we can get over 128, we're likely to fill the 131, but this whole zone here should be considered aggressive while long. However, if the bulls get it over 131 plus tax here, what happened down here? Breaking into and over the ceiling of a bounce beam into an air pocket. Well, we got the same deal over here. It just happens to be a little more intense because we've got the dominator below us now. Same thing, repeatable, right? So this then becomes really attractive for a potential continuation beyond that point. So for right now, at a key target zone, watch for this zone to hold and turn into a breakout level to take us through the more dense area. And over 131s, this thing's got a good run up to 135s. Over that, we're likely to retest the highs there. So Boeing, that's on the hot list as well. Let me show you Starbucks. This is another one that's firing off. So let me take you to a daily here. Here's a clear sell impulse to a real clean directional move. We put in a bid for a break of that downtrend, at least the last part of it. We came back and we put in a higher low right there. If you look to the left, there's a real dense commitment of trading starting from the very low 70s. And really right about where that last swing came in is where we see that structure support tie in with the balance beams. So with this area here holding, we make a new structure high here. We take out the swing high here. We have a pullback, anticipated higher low. And with this area here resuming, a chance to retest these highs and potentially go for a harmonic move that would look something like this. Just based off of this swing here. And that would put us right back up to the structure resistance here in the low 81 camp. So if you look to the left here, here's that spike that we've taken over. Here's this guy right here. Price is at 74.30s. Earlier in the day, we were starting to get over this, so starting to really show that continuation potential there. So with this area here holding as support, you're only talking a couple of bucks on a $74 stock, likely to retest 78 and then look to the left again. Over 78, we're likely to go to about 81. And look at how that bounce beam ties in with the harmonic. Boom. There you go. Don't even need to throw up any fib there. Great visual. Here's Huntsman on the daily. And this is a real neat. This is one of the best things to follow in terms of what you want to see in stocks and out of the market. We're in a bullish market, right? The number one type of signal you want to follow is a breakout to new highs. Second signal you want to follow is a bullish trend that's pulled back and is resuming up. So here, Huntsman taking over the $23 neighborhood, and then just there's not a lot of commitment here at all. It's just taken out this last swing right here. Trader trend has gone bullish, so we've got the math of the trader trend to go along with, and this thing is sitting pretty with just a couple dollars of risk here. It's sitting at new all-time highs. So this drive here, another harmonic drive up here, and we're looking at about 27s as an extension for this setup here. But this is very attractive just because of this. You want to be a buyer above and a seller below, and this thing is showing some nice support here and taking out that last swing high. So Huntsman is looking about as good as you're going to see any setup. All right. In fact, some of these are EQ Insider candidates that have gone out this morning earlier. Gold's been in a nasty bear continuation pattern. Recently, it's tried to gain the 1200 area as some footing. This correlated to a long setup for the EQ Insider group here and for position trading the futures as well, essentially to be long over 1243. That was the price point I've thrown out a long time ago, and it's obviously been a resonant zone here. 1282s, 1322. Okay, those are the two main price points above. I had 1267 as a key zone to watch. Essentially, this impulse got past 22s, and then 1390 was the price point I mentioned to look for immense overhead resistance, as I phrased it. And we got up a dollar or two higher, and then bam, reversed hard. So that's why we got out of the GLD. People emailing, why'd you get out of GLD? Well, because we broke back below 1384. That was the price point I mentioned in that Friday training session. And where we would look to see strength in a pullback, anticipated support on a pullback, we didn't get. We had the mid 1350s as the first area, then 1322. Price just sliced through everything. So a real negative turn for gold there. And if you've seen this chart for just a little bit, you know that the blue and red spikes are more intense than the white ones. So here's a dominant zone here. Price breaks above it, bullish. Breaks below it. What's that? That's the opposite of bullish. We break below this zone here, we fill to 82s, we get below 82s, we're now at 80. We're starting to break down quite a bit here and very likely to move down to 43. So if we break below this area, likely to move down. And that's where we're going right now. We're at 1280, so that continued weakness showing. Now, the last video I did, I called this a battle of impulses because we've got this prior sell impulse and we've got this new rally impulse. So who's in charge? Well, there's a further completion possibility for gold to drive down to about 1,032. This is real big picture stuff here. And this rally impulse here, the corrective one, if this swing low here holds, chance to move it on up. Well, since I did the video, we've scooted down here a bit and we've gotten below 82, and that really puts this into some serious question marks. So the bigger picture is that we're doing something where the initial sell that we had in the 1920s in gold price point is going to complete down for this target down here to 1,032. The big green light, or I should say red light, is that we would be below 43s. We get below 43s, we're very likely going to take out these lows and move down. So right now we have no position in the GLD and it's looking worse by the minute here. I just wanted to give you a little active verbal follow through. If for some reason the gold bulls decide they want to show up, they're going to have to do some work. At this point now, they've got to get it over about 1340 just to stem the bleeding, and then they got to get it over this, essentially the 1400 round number here to get over this area. At that point, it becomes real attractive. Yes, you're starting to see that air pocket there, and that's why you want to be long here. Any core long positions in gold here are aggressive. So that's the deal with gold in a nutshell. And let me show you the NASDAQ. There's a lot of commitment in the 27 to 2800, and then what's impressive about this chart is while we don't have the intensity spikes of blue and red, there are a lot of commitment levels stair-stepping all the way up. Often on a rally impulse, what you'll see that the trading level commitment goes down. So the balance beam spikes would actually start to taper off like this. But that's not the case at all. In fact, these guys are as prominent, if not more so, than some of the ones below. So that in and of itself is pretty impressive for price. This is a nice clean directional move. There's a bit of a channel to the oscillation of price, and you can see here that this has been the deepest pullback we've had. This correlates to the move down in the S&P to 1732 that gave a great long signal going back over 40s. Look at the spike right here. Okay, so with price breaking below, it looks pretty nasty. It looks very bearish. There's always negative media associated with that. A lot of emotions come out. A lot of people that think they know what they're doing trading on their idea of fundamentals don't have such a great time, and they don't know anything about pure price. You want to be a buyer above and a seller below, and that launches us to new highs. We've faded from there, and here's the support swing we've just put in. So that's the crash course to bring you up to where we are. Let's drill it down now. Let's go back 120 days and check out a 60-minute chart and see what we see. You can see there's a lot of commitment here where we had that bounce and we've driven up to new highs. There's a lot of commitment up here as well. So we've really got a battle of institutions. These bigger spikes, you know, where the big houses are getting in. Plenty of folks long down here. A lot of people taking profits here, and maybe some hedge funds going short here as well. Price driving down, and we're finding some pretty good bounces off of these areas here. In fact, we've just transitioned above this level here, and an outside return will be the big test for the NASDAQ. So coming up to this floor support here at about 3660s, that's in another 30 points or so. That's where we're going to really test this floor here to see if it's going to act as resistance. So it's been support. Here's a little breakout that didn't hold. Here's resistance that came into the play, new structure low as resistance there. What about this time? We're getting pretty darn close to it. A little higher will be an important test. So watch 3660s in the NASDAQ, a little bit higher than where we are now, to act as a resistance or to show a catalytic point where the bulls come back in and pop this thing back up to 70. All right, that's what's in store for the NASDAQ right now. This last bounce here, recovering a key level, and right back for that resistance test here. This will be a real important one to watch. The NASDAQ leads the markets in larger scale trends, so if this thing starts to take over the floor here, don't be surprised to see some further upside in the E-mini as well as the Dow. At the top of the hour, let's call it. We'll be back here tomorrow, same link, same password. All right, any questions, shoot us an email. That'll do it for now. We'll see you back here in the live room.